Just start recording. All right. Yeah, welcome everybody to elicitation of requirements. So tonight we'll be going through requirement gathering and documentation. What does requirement mean? So the topics we'll be discussing the definition of requirements, types of requirements, requirements framework, stages of requirements, elicitation techniques, and all these topics basically. And then at the end, we'll do a role play to just give. I think it will be very useful for the BAs, but it's good for everybody to know what it's about. Every member of the team, and um, we'll just have a fun time together. All right. So, what is requirement gathering? 1 year requirement gathering, what is it about? What is this gibberish that is being spoken about? So it's actually the process of determining what your project needs to achieve and what needs to be created to make that happen. Yeah, that looks like a big definition. So what it means is that now a business owner has come to you, like Blue Sky, um, who Deji is the CEO of Blue Sky, has come to you and said that, oh, I need you to develop mentor skid within the next 3 months. So he just said, I need you to develop mentor skid. That's just the vision, but what are the nitty-gritties that comes with developing mentor skid? What do we need to develop mentor skid? What do you have in mind for mentor skid? So that's requirement gathering. When you begin to ask questions about the vision of the business owner to achieve the end goal, to achieve the end result, that's what requirements gathering is all about. So in the BA word, it is called elicitation. So when you hear elicitation, is the same as requirements gathering. You are gathering requirements, you are eliciting requirements. Like that's the buzzword to use. Um, eliciting requirements as a business analyst. Excuse me. So, what is requirement gathering process? So, when you are gathering requirement, there are processes with requirement gathering. The first thing you want to do is to identify the relevant stakeholders. Imagine you are working in a company of 100 people, and all these 100 persons cannot be relevant to that particular project that you want to develop. So, um, if you come to Blue Sky admin and you're asking for a requirement, they might just be looking at you that what are you saying? So you need to identify when, as a business analyst, when you get on a project, you need to identify who are your relevant stakeholders, who are the people you can go to get this information that you need. How can you get them? What are the ways you can get them? So these people are instrumental to your requirements gathering process. You can't go to everybody. It's just a waste of time going to everybody. And again, because we work with timelines as business analysts, you need to think about. So one thing that a business analyst must have is time management. You need to think about how fast can I achieve this with this timeline that is given to me. So identifying the relevant stakeholders will be very helpful and useful for you to get to your end goal. The next thing is you want to establish the project goals and objective. So DJ has come to you now and said, oh, like I want mentor skill. And now you have a product owner. Your product owner has gotten the vision from DJ, who is the business owner, because the business owner is different from the product owner. A business owner is the owner of the business. The product owner is the owner of the product. So the product owner is part of your team. I remember when Olami was taking you guys on Scrum ceremonies, and she mentioned that your product owner is part of your team. However, your product owner is the person as a business analyst that you will work very closely with, because now the product owner knows the vision of the business, and then they can easily break it down to you um um through elicitation, which is the same as requirement gathering. So you have to meet with your product owner. I'm sure some of you have started getting the project mandate. So the project mandate contains the goal, the vision, the objective that needs to be achieved at the end of the day for this particular project. Then you begin to elicit requirements from stakeholders. So who are your relevant stakeholders? Have you been able to identify them? Have you been able to know the right person to talk to when you need requirements? So it's very important. Then, when you elicit requirements, you need to document these requirements. You don't just go to, you don't just go to meetings. As a business analyst, we write a lot. It, it's very important because you need to document those requirements and then confirm it. So, um, everyone knows that when um you're having a conversation with someone and you want to report third party, sometimes you will not say it verbatim. You will not be able to explain it. Some things will be lost in the process of explaining it to a third party, and that's why it's important for you to document the requirements, because when the stakeholder is giving you a requirement and you document it, it's easy for you to go back and confirm and say, is this what you actually said? Because a person can say one thing, I can say a particular thing, and then you hear something completely different. So it's important as business analysts that we confirm the requirements that we've received from the stakeholders. Then once we've confirmed the requirement, now is our job to prioritize the requirement, working closely with our product owner. So with our product owner, we can prioritize. Sometimes your product owner might not be available. That I say it all the time, every business analyst is a proxy product owner. So in a situation whereby your team has to do sprint planning, and then the the product owner has already given you the project mandate and giving you the vision of the project. This is what we want to achieve. You should be able to, as a business analyst, prioritize the requirement and say, oh, this will come first. Without this, we cannot achieve this, and then this next, and then this. Because there are times things can happen, situation can arise. Are you going to leave your team hanging because you cannot reach your product owner? So it's important that as a business analyst, you should be able to prioritize requirements. The last thing is never make assumptions. Never ever, because it can yeah, cause a lot of issues for you later in future, like on the project, because you are assuming. When you are unsure, go back to the stakeholder and ask again and again. It's better for you to ask 10 times and get the accurate requirement than make assumption and then um give the wrong requirements to the development team, because whatever you write as the requirement is what will be developed by the development team. And when you don't produce the right requirement, the development team will develop what you have provided to them. So excuse me, it's important for you to never make assumptions. All right, so we have types of requirements. So um, requirements can be broken down into four categories. We have the general requirements, we have the technical requirements, we have the functional requirements, and we have the non-functional requirements. So when a project is given to you, there are general requirements of the project. So for example, we have so the categories like um general general requirements. We have business constraint, business policy, business continuity. we have legal, branding, culture, language. For the technical requirements, you are thinking about hardware, software, interface, internet. Functional requirements, you are thinking of data entry, data maintenance, procedural, retrieval requirements. For non-functional, you are thinking about performance, security and access, backup and recovery, archiving and retention, robustness, availability, usability, accessibility, capability, and scalability. So all of these sound strange. In a nutshell, what does this mean? When you excuse me, when you meet with your stakeholders, um, a stakeholder can give you high level requirements. Some stakeholders can be very in depth, but when you get your requirements, there are some requirements that are very general, which is mostly what we business analysts gather. But there are situations, for instance, if you are writing a business requirement document, you need to break your requirements into these categories so that it can reflect on your business requirement document. So the general requirements are like the requirement, what does the business want? What's the business constraint? Are there any legal issues? What is the UI? Those are general requirements. UI means user interface, like how is it looking? What's the UX? What's the user experience? What language are we using? So like um uh for instance, for example, what will fall in a general requirement to be registration, login. Those are general requirements of a particular application. It depends on the application that you are trying to develop. It's not every time you develop a software application. There are times that you are building a house. So your general requirement will be how many rooms in that instance. Those are general requirements. However, when it comes to technical requirements, I mean, as it pertains to software, to applications, we are thinking about the software. Is it compatible with iOS? Is it compatible with um is it compatible with Google Chrome? Is it compatible with Mozilla? Those are the questions you want to ask. Most times, your QAs will start interrogating you on questions like that. So what is the compatibility and all of that? So yeah, you might have to think about that. But um for this, it depends. Like you can ask these questions from your PO, because as a business analyst, you need to think about these questions. You need to think about all these questions that you're going to ask your product owner. So I put together a requirement framework. So when we want to gather requirements, so literally a requirement has a cycle. And the first thing is we elicit requirements, which is the same as requirement gathering. The next thing is we analyze the requirement. And sometimes when we are analyzing requirements, we realize that we have to go back to eliciting requirements, more information, because when you are, excuse me, when you're eliciting requirements, sometimes um as you are analyzing it, you realize that there is still a gap that needs to be filled. So you go back to the stakeholder to elicit requirement. Then you validate the requirement. Validating the requirement by going back to confirm and saying, oh, is this what you said? Is this what you meant when you said this? And then you begin to document those requirements. After documenting the requirement, there is also requirement management, which is putting it in the backlog, breaking it down into epics, features, product backlog items, and writing user stories and acceptance criteria. That's requirement management. So this is the framework. All right. So I've been talking a lot about how you should never make assumptions, and this is a very beautiful picture that um it shows that excuse me, that shows how assumption can be terrible for any project. So if you look at this picture, this is how the customer explained it, how the project leader understood it, how the engineer designed it, how the programmer wrote it, how the sales executive described it, how the project was documented, what operation installed, how the customer was billed, how the help desk supported, what the customer really needed. So it kept getting worse if you look at the picture. And that's the importance of validating requirements, going back again and again to be sure. Of course, there are times that things can be lost in trans- translation, but that's the point of doing user acceptance testing, which you guys will come to understand um along the way. So, what are the stages of requirement gathering? The first thing is you want to understand the pain point. What does that mean? What does the pain point mean? It means, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why are we providing this particular solution? So you want to understand the reason behind it, because there is a reason, there is a solution that needs to be provided. There's a problem, and this application is going to resolve that problem. So you want to understand that. You want to eliminate language ambiguity. You want to make it as simple as possible, ensure that everyone understands the ensure that you are not using a lot of tech jargons for non-tech stakeholders. If your stakeholders are not technical, how do you break it down so that they understand what you are explaining? Also, you want to identify corner cases. So um alternative path, things that are not 100% stated. So for instance, if they say, oh, build a lamp that will light up the room of 16 people. So the happy part is that once you put on the lamp, it's supposed to light up the room of 16 people. However, as a business analyst, you are thinking about, okay, what if we turn on the lamp and the lamp doesn't light up the room? What is the workaround? How can we work around that? Is there an alternative way to make the lamp still light up the room? Do we discover? So these are things that you are thinking about. Every other person will just say, light up the room. Oh, build the lamp, light up the room. You are thinking about the what ifs. So you want to identify that, and then you write your user stories, which you guys will be taught how to do. Mm. Sorry. Um, so now we have elicitation techniques. We have different techniques for eliciting requirement. Um, yeah, these are a few of them. We have document analysis, observation, interview, workshop, and prototyping. So I will explain in details each of these. What is document analysis? What's observation? What are interviews? What's workshop? And prototyping. Excuse me. So documentation, like document analysis. So for document analysis, you want to create your document. We have um you have the requirement numbering. You want to number your requirements. You in your documents, you have your user stories, you have your acceptance criteria, you have your process map, you have your use case, you have your wireframe, you have requirements catalog. So um most document that we create for requirements is called business requirement documents. As business analysts, yeah, they are. You can actually create a comprehensive requirement document. You can also create one that is high level, but ensure that whenever you create a business requirement document, you ensure that there is requirement numbering. You number your requirements, and then you can break down your requirements into the user stories and acceptance criteria. Excuse me. You put in your process map. So um a complete business requirement document has all of this in it. So, what is the essence of having a business requirement document? First thing, for documentation. Secondly, if you work in a waterfall plus agile environment, which is called Wagile, many organizations will want you to have that. Also, it is a good way for you to get sign off from your stakeholders. However, you have to understand the stakeholders that you are working with and ensure that you make your business requirements to work so that they don't just push it aside or just give you sign off because they cannot read it, because some business requirement documents can be really voluminous, they can be really big, huge. So understand your stakeholders, understand the stakeholders that you're working with, and ensure that you are not creating a document that is too big for them to understand or read through. So, because if you have the business requirement document and they sign it off, they don't necessarily have to put pen to paper, but they can sign it off by via email and say, "Oh, I have read this, and this is fine with me." And then you can start development, because it's that sign off that you will hold on to when issues arise, and you can say, "Oh, you signed this off, and this is what you said." So sign-offs are very, very important. For business requirement documents, I used to get sign off. Sorry. Okay. All right. So the next elicitation technique we want to discuss is observation. So observation can be broken down into three. We have the formal observation, protocol analysis, and shadowing. So what does the formal observation do? You're watching a specific task being performed, and while observing, you can ask questions about the steps. So, for example, you you are the business analyst that has been employed to Blue Sky to um enhance our systems, our process of working. So um you go into the office, and then allow me is doing onboarding. You can actually sit with her and begin to ask questions on, okay, allow me, I saw that you put this person's name in this Google Sheet. Why is that? Why is this person's name highlighted in red? What's the issue? So you can, as she's taking the steps, you can ask her questions. So protocol analysis, this involves asking business staff to carry out a specific task and describe each step that they perform. It's almost like the formal observation, but this time around, you are asking them to describe in details each of the steps. So, for instance, you can allow them finish, and then they have to break down each step to you as they go along. Shadowing, this involves a member of staff following a member of staff for a period like 2 or 3 days to find out um what a particular task entail. So, for instance, onboarding users to so you want to for instance, onboarding users to Azure DevOps, you want to ask, allow me, okay, allow me, what is this? So in the next 2 days, you are going to sit with her and you are going to ask her, like, um ask her, okay, show me the steps on how you onboard users to Azure DevOps that the organization uses. And then she begins to talk you through each of them. So you are is so basically observation, like the name implies, you are observing what the user is doing, and then you are trying to understand the process, so that, and while you're observing, you start picking up pain points okay, things that needs improvement. Oh, okay, I noticed that your onboarding process is manual. How can we move it from manual to being automated? Okay, so if we move it to being automated, it's going to save time and give you a good SLA. SLA means service level agreement, is used to measure time taken in in performing a task. Many organizations use it. So yeah, those are the things. Like you're already thinking as a business analyst. Like, as business analysts, we think a lot. So we think very fast as things are unfolding. So workshop, another wonderful elicitation technique. Um, what does it entail? There are different. You can use different means in a workshop depending on the stakeholders. You can use different method to achieve workshop. So what is workshop? Workshop is having several stakeholders. For instance, if you have like 50 stakeholders that are important to this project, you can invite them to the room, and then they sit down on a round table, and then you begin to ask them questions. You begin to elicit your requirements from them. So all of them are going to be in a room while you elicit your requirements. So what methods can you use to achieve the good, excuse me, what method can you use to elicit your requirements from them? Um, brainstorming. Brainstorming. So everybody calling out their ideas. Okay, this is the vision. You place it in front of them, and everybody begin to call out their ideas and say, "Oh, I think we'll do this. We'll achieve this." So everybody is brainstorming in that moment. Round robin, round round robin discussion. So everyone is on a round table, um, giving out their own ideas of what they think this should be, like what the track should entail. Um, then we have brainwriting. Rather than calling out their ideas, they are actually put writing it out. Everyone is writing out their ideas in the room. So that's what brainwriting is about. Sticky notes, um everyone can write their ideas on a sticky note, and then you place it on a whiteboard. So everyone, like, for instance, if you need to elicit requirements from all the stakeholders in Blue Sky, like all the staff of Blue Sky, to ensure that our processes are improved. So for instance, you have all of us in a room, every one of us, we are sitting on the round table, and then we begin to write, oh, this is what I want to be improved. You have a whiteboard, and then you begin to put the sticky notes based on our ideas. And at the end, you can have, we can all go through it and prioritize each of those um, ideas that has been dropped. Breakout or syndicate group exercise. So um, I'm glad that we do a lot of breakout rooms. You guys are getting used to breakout rooms. So in a workshop, you can actually divide people into groups and put them into groups so they can have a discussion. So breakout room A can have a discussion, breakout room B can have a discussion. At the end of the day, everybody comes back into the main room, and then we all discuss what has been shared in each of the breakout rooms to get a requirement. All right, the next one is interview. What is interview? Interview is more like one-on-one interview, like interview, sharing views. So it is a one-on-one conversation most of the time. Sometimes you have two or more people. The highest you should have is five. If it's becoming more than five, it's best to use a workshop for that process. So is just the process of you eliciting requirements with is more personal, is more is more close knit. You can easily develop a relationship with the stakeholder when you use interview technique. Um, then, so I put together um, how to prepare for an interview. Like when you have an interview with a stakeholder, it's very important to prepare because it helps you save time, it helps you get the requirement. However, you can use this structure, the 5W structure, which is why, what, who, when, and where. What does that mean? So, why are we doing this project? What is the reason for this project? Who will this project be useful for? When do we need this project? And where? Where are we going to use this project? So you can use the 5Ws to prepare for your interviews so that it's very helpful for you. You don't necessarily have to stick to this, but it's a good structure. It helps you plan your thoughts, plan your ideas, and when you go into that meeting with the stakeholder, you already know that everything is planned out. All right. So I put together some questions that can guide your requirements gathering. Please, apologies for that. That can guide your requirement gathering. So questions like, what do I know about this feature? Or what assumptions am I making about this feature that I need to confirm? What does this feature need to do? What is the end result of doing this? What are the pieces of this feature? What needs to happen next? Must happen before? And what ifs? So, yeah, these questions can be useful because every project is different. Every project has a different flavor. So, as a business analyst, the onus is on you to understand how and like what this project is about and ask the relevant questions with regards to that project. All right. Thank you very much for listening. Um, yeah, I believe we were able to finish right on time because we also have the role play, and I know that there are questions um waiting for me. All right. Any question?
I go.
Okay, just raise your hand if you have a question and then I'll call people accordingly. Um, so Damilola, if you are speaking, we can hear you, Damilola.
Hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I hear you
Thank you.
now.
Thank you very much. It was a straightforward class, straightforward training. And my question, because I'm doing QA and there are other people here. So, which this elicitation, sorry,
It's okay.
who is responsible for doing this? Is it included with QA? I know it's more of BA, but does clear how to be involved in this also at all time, or we just have to study and maybe silence and listen to what question when it comes to testing. That's when we raise our own question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yeah. So the a business analyst is responsible for eliciting requirements and then coming back to interpret this requirement to the development team. Um, it would be nice for you to attend, but you don't necessarily have to attend elicitation sessions. I mean, elicitation meetings when a BA is having it. It's always nice, like at the start of your project now, it's nice when they're having maybe their um elicitation with their product owner. It's nice for you to attend so that you have an idea of what your project is about. But subsequently, you don't necessarily have to attend. if you want to, yeah, nice. But if you don't necessarily have to. However, when they have written the user stories and acceptance criteria, and you guys have to go through refinement, that's where your job starts. You begin to ask a lot of questions because you need clarifications. Especially when you need clarifications, you want to be sure that they've written the right thing, you've understood it, and then it can be put into the sprint, if that makes sense.
Totally understood. Thank you.
All right. Joshua,
Thank you. Good evening, Polo.
evening.
Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, I can hear you loud
All
and
right,
clear.
thank you. Please, you made mention of XLA, but I couldn't get the terms properly. I want to write that, so that is why I
SLA.
asked. Yeah,
Oh, is service level agreement.
service level agreement. Okay, thank you. And
Level
another one
agreement.
is the last slide, the questions that can guide in elicitations of requirements. Please, can you show
Yeah.
back that slide, because I need some things to put down.
Yeah, but this video is recorded, so you will definitely get the big video, except you just want me to share it again. And if I share, I won't see the people that are raising their hand, but it's recorded.
All right, thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Adebayo.
Yeah, thank you very much for your teaching. It was very, very simple. This is my question without wasting the time of others. Talking about workshop. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can.
The workshop is about having several stakeholders, and I want to ask question on brainstorming. You
Yeah.
said this brainwriting rather. You said sorry,
Okay.
brainwriting. The brainwriting is writing out your idea on and on how to develop that very project. Then you drop it inside the necessary place that's supposed to be dropped. Now, after writing the brainwriting, after all the staff have written their ideas, the note, please, is it the project manager or the business analyst that will handle what other staff have written down pertaining the brainwriting that they have written down? So that's why my question is it the project manager that will make use of the brainwriting that they have written down or the business analyst?
Okay. So elicitation is the responsibility of a business analyst. Workshop is one of the techniques you can use to elicit requirements. So it is the job of the business analyst to flesh out those ideas after it has been written, and um either you are developing a project request, um, um a business requirement document, or you are creating user stories and acceptance criteria. So in Agile, we create user stories and acceptance criteria. Um, in Waterfall, business requirements document is created because in the Waterfall project, all the requirements are gathered at the beginning of the project and documented. And that's the document that the developers will use for development. In Agile, however, it is believed that um, we cannot gather everything at the start of the project because Agile is flexible. So we can gather requirements per sprint. We can gather requirements. We can gather requirements for two, 3 sprints before the project begins. We can always go back and confirm with stakeholders and say, oh, this is what you put down. Does this make sense? So when you have any of the workshop technique that you use for your workshop, it is the responsibility of the BA to put it together, put those ideas together, prioritize the ideas, write them out, and interpret them to the development team.
Thank you very much. Please, do you think this idea can work out in the aspect of building world? Because I study real estate management and valuation, and we have a lot of testimony that all other building team in the building world, they found it difficult to go along with project developer. Now, in a situation whereby both the architect, the quantity surveyors, the building technologies, the estate surveyors, the urban and regional planning, they come together at the round table. You think they can really work along with the project developer using this workshop, the brain writer?
Yes, you can use any technique. So, like I said, it's important for you to understand your stakeholders. First of all, you want to identify who your stakeholders are, and then you want to know the best technique to use for them. Now, in workshop, there are several. Brain writing is just one. There are several of them that you can use because you know the stakeholders that you are working with. So the onus is on the business analyst to understand, okay, these are the type of stakeholders that I have. Are they difficult stakeholders? Are they easy stakeholders? Are they technical stakeholders? Are they non-technical stakeholders? Okay, what is the best workshop technique, or what's the best workshop method that I can use for them that will help me achieve the result I want to achieve at the end of the day? So it's up to you to understand what works best for those set of stakeholders that you want to. You can ask them to write down their ideas on sticky notes, and then you paste it and you read it out to everyone. You can ask them to write down their ideas, so that, because you also want to, when you are doing workshop, you want everybody's idea to be valid. Everybody should feel valued. Every of your stakeholders should feel valued. But there is the tendency of some stakeholders trying to overshadow some other stakeholders, right? So it's up to you to really understand, because it's not just about um eliciting requirements. You also have to understand your stakeholders and know them, and um 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 how do I put it? Also manage them. You need to manage stakeholders as business analysts. Majority of her work is managing stakeholders, managing their expectation, managing their time, managing them generally is very, very important, if that makes sense, Adebayo.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Adeolua.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for the lecture. So I have a question, like two questions actually. First one is that under the types of requirements, under the general, yeah, it made mention, or rather I saw on the screen, Lego. Is it the BA that is going to write the legal aspects of it, of the requirement? Then, second, sorry?
Okay. Yeah, let me just quickly answer that. Not necessarily, you have a legal team, you have a compliance team in your organization. So sometimes compliance team we want to give you requirements, and but you have to know if there's anything like that. Do you understand?
Okay, so if there's going to be like any legal backings towards the product rather, then you need to
Mhm.
know
You
and be
need
able
to
to
know,
document
and
it.
you might have to document that.
Okay, so it's the BA that documents it.
Yes.
Okay. Secondly, these requirements, yeah, they are the ones that will be used for the product's backlog.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Lastly, at what point does the developers start using these products backlogs? Is it after sign off?
Yeah, yes. So ideally, you have to, once you've gathered the requirements, it has to be signed off before you even start populating it in your backlog. because whatever is in your backlog, the assumption is fine with the stakeholders. Everything is good with the stakeholders, and then developers start developing. I mean, you have to have either refinement sessions or sprint planning, because some people do sprint planning and refinement the same day, which is not advisable because it takes a lot of time. So it's best to have refinement sessions. In your refinement sessions, your developers can ask loads and loads of questions to you, the BA. Your QAs too can ask loads and loads of questions because they want to understand the project, where it's coming from, what are they supposed to achieve, this acceptance criteria, does it make sense? And there are times that because you are not technical, right? Your developer might have to advise you and say, I think this will work better this way, right? Because the way you've written the requirements, so they might say, oh, I think this will work better this way. So you have to be open-minded and say, okay, that makes sense. Oh, okay, might need to check back with the product owner. There are times that you might need to check back. There are times that you make decision on the spot because, of course, you know the project, you know what the project is about, if that makes sense.
Yes. So while you're gathering these documents, you need to actually reach out to the developers as well.
Requirements.
Yes,
You are
requirements.
not gathering documents, you're gathering
Sorry,
requirements.
requirements. Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I meant. So you need to reach out to the developers and say, oh, these are the things I've been able to gather. Does it work well for you guys before I sign it off?
No, that's not how it works. So you, as the business analyst, deal with the business and ensure that you get sign off from them, and then you come back to the developer. So gracefully, you are working in an agile environment. So it's easy for you to always go back to the stakeholders and say, oh, after our refinement session, this came up. Do you our developer think this is the best way this will work? What do you think? And then you guys can have that conversation. But
This is what
your
happened.
business sponsor or your product owner has to sign off and say, oh, I'm happy with this before you even start populating the backlog. That's how it works.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Onyi,
Hi, Bolu. Thank you for
hi.
that session. It's quite insightful. While you were talking about business requirement document, you mentioned wireframe,
Yeah.
and I really do not understand. Can you please shed some light on it?
Yeah, so wireframe is the last point I didn't make. So wireframe is a prototyping tool. Is more like a mock-up. You'll be taught wireframe actually is another topic on its own. So what is wireframe is a prototyping tool that helps you visualize the requirement that's been given. So for instance, they said, your product owner came to you and said, "Oh, yeah, I need a website whereby my people can order food, right? That's the only thing your product owner has told you. I want a website where people can order food. I want it to be quick delivery. I want a payment gateway on this website." So, and now you are speaking to a non-technical stakeholder. What do you go back to? You go, you can easily create a wireframe. So a wireframe more like a mock-up. Um, and then you draw it out and go back to the stakeholders and say, oh, I put this together. Is this the vision that you're thinking about for this project? And then they can say, oh, I want you to move the header like the home page where you put the home page icon. I want you to move it to the bottom. I want you to move it to the left. Where you put the payment gateway, I want you to move it across to the middle of the screen. I want pictures in the middle of the screen. Do you get? But you've given them an idea of what the website will look like. It's not the end product. It's more like in layman terms, is a sketch, a drawing, a sketch of what the finished product will look like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. And in addition to that, I know we've been using the word product owner, BA. I'm not really clear on the two. I know sometimes I think when you introduce yourself to us, you even introduce yourself as a product owner, and I'm kind of unclear. Can you please explain?
Okay, so a product owner is the person that owns the product in simple terms. Okay, so as a business analyst, it works in two ways. Most organizations have a product owner, they have a business owner who is the owner of the business, who brought the vision, who said, this is what I want. And sometimes it doesn't, you might not have the chance to communicate directly with the business owner. However, you have a product owner. So the product owner understands the vision, gets the entire idea of what the business owner wants to do, and then liaise with you, the business analyst, to interpret those the vision, which is through requirements. So you go to the product owner. So the product owner is like the middleman between you and the business owner as a business analyst. However, a business analyst can also act as a proxy product owner, because there are times that you'll be in an organization whereby there is no product owner. So you, as the business analyst, will be communicating directly with the business owner. In some of your teams, you will start meeting with your product owner soon. Like if you've not put in a meeting with them, it's advisable to put in a meeting with them, because by next week you should have populated your board and have requirement there, because as a business analyst, the team is relying on you to do their job. So if you don't put anything in the backlog, your team cannot do their job. So you are the one that is delaying the entire team, because you have not done your own job, right? So the product owner is like the middle person between yourself and the business owner. The product owner communicates the vision of the business to you as the business analyst, and then you communicate that vision to the development team, which is your QA and your developers. Does that make
Thank you
sense?
so much, madam. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
But in subsequent times, you will really understand what the product owner is like, because you'll be dealing with with your product owner throughout the internship.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Miriam.
Hello, Bolu. Thank you very much for that presentation. You really made it look very simple. So, next one is that
Miriam, you sound very far. Is it possible
very
for you
far.
to come?
Oh God, you can't believe where I am this night. Oh, but now is it better? Is it better?
Yeah, a bit, yeah, but just go on. Go on.
Let me put it on. Hello, is it better now?
Yeah, now it's great.
Yeah, okay. So, right. So at the onset, I remember they just said something that we would be able to watch the video on Prep Major. So I'd like to know, because some of the videos I like to go and rewatch them, and apart from that, I like to know if we're going to be taught how to use when you were doing the presentation, it was so lovely. It would be nice to know how to what tools and how to use the tools as well, to create something that, would be very interactive and very captivating to eyes, such that you won't lose your audience if you are to do presentation in a workplace. So what do you have to say about that, please?
Yeah, so definitely there is something in the calendar for presentation. You'll be taught how to do presentation. Um, Also, for prep major, I'll just ask my Oga to answer. Did you? I saw him just now. I think he left. Um, Yeah, definitely. We are working on prep major because we are trying to create um another website different from the one you used to register so that you have easy access and not too much bugs on it. But yeah, we'll communicate that soon. But
All right,
definitely be
thank you.
taught presentation and you'll be taught all the tools that you need for your role. Thank you. Yes, Juliet. Okay, Rita.
Thank you, Bolu. So I quite understand your explanation on BA and product owner, but where my confusion is presently is the product owner a part of the Scrum? Like you said, the product owner is part of the Scrum team, but is the product owner part of the stakeholder, like the business owner, or where is the product owner coming from? I don't
Okay,
know if that
so
question is clear.
I will define what stakeholder mean. A stakeholder is anybody that is impacted by your project or involved in your project. So who are the people that will be impacted by your project? Or who are the people that will be involved in your project? Um, your business owner is bringing the vision. You'll be impacted by the project. His pocket will be impacted by the project. Your product owner is going to be involved because the product owner has to give you the vision. Your developer, their stakeholders, they are going to be involved in the project. The Scrum Master is going to be involved in the project. Your QA, all the members of your team, they are all stakeholders. So anyone that will be impacted by your project is a stakeholder. So yes, your product owner is your stakeholder, and um, your in this for the project that you've been doing, your product owner is a major stakeholder because that's the person that you'll be gathering requirement from.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Maybe I should use vivid example so that my question is clarified. For instance, I'm the business owner. I'm the one that wants the what's it called now? The website to be created. I've come to Blue Sky to create the website for me, and they've given me the BA QA, all the team that I need. Is the product owner coming from my side, as in someone that understands my business, or is someone that I've spoken to in Blue Sky that don't understand what I want?
Yeah. So the product owner is part of the team. Yeah. So most likely the product owner is coming from Blue Sky,
All right.
not from your team.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Okay. Lola.
Hello, Bolu.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you for that session. Please, I just have two questions. The first one is under the stages of requirement gathering. I think you mentioned something like identify corner cases. Please, can you just shed more light on that?
Yeah. Corner cases are alternative, like things that are not glaring to everyone. Those are those are corner cases. I use the example of a lamp, like you've been told to create a lamp, right? Build a lamp. Fumilola, build a lamp that will light up the room of 16 people, right? And then you are the business analyst. Everybody has said build a lamp. So the idea is that when we put on this lamp, it automatically light up the room of 16 people. However, as a business analyst, you are thinking about, okay, when we plug this lamp, what if it doesn't light up? Okay, what is the workaround? Workaround means what is the other way we can ensure that the room is still lit, even though the lamp doesn't go on when it is plugged. So you are looking for alternative ways. Okay, maybe have an extra switch outside that doesn't need to be plugged to the wall. Maybe do you understand what I'm saying? Those are
Yeah.
corner cases that
Okay.
nobody is thinking about, things that nobody has actually thought about, but they can happen. So
Okay.
in the business analysis world, we call it happy path and not so happy path. So the happy path is the requirement says um uh as a user, I or let me say, given that I create this lamp and I plug it to the wall, and then it must turn on. When I plug it to the wall, then it must light up the room. That's the happy path. However, there is the part of given that I plug in the lamp and it doesn't light up the room, then I must have an extra switch that is not connected to the wall. When I turn that on, then the lights must turn on or the room must be lit. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is
Yeah.
a very vague example,
Okay.
right? It's just for you to have an understanding. So it's not a very, because everybody expect that when you plug the lamp to the wall and
Mm.
turn on the switch, is on, right? But what do you, so as a business analyst, you are thinking about situations of when it doesn't go right. The normal way is supposed to go. What is the other way? Do we now get stuck because it didn't work the way we planned it to? What are the other ways that we can make sure that it still works while we resolve the issue? Because we will not just leave that issue.
Okay.
The not so happy part, like it at the end of the day, everything has to go back to the happy path. Like at the end of the day, the issue why it did not light up the room when we plugged it has to be fixed. But in the meantime, the user should be able to use the system regardless. The user should have access to light regardless of the fact that we cannot get it turned on from the wall. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
I
does.
confused you. Okay.
No, no, it's okay.
All right.
Yes. Thank you. Then the second question is just I think under the elicitation techniques you mentioned prototyping. I didn't get that
Prototyping.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Prototyping is just visualizing your requirements. So
Okay.
you can use wireframe, you can use um, user mapping, process map. It's just a way to visualize your requirements to the
Okay.
stakeholders.
Okay. All right.
Excuse me, that's the
Thank you so much.
prototyping. Welcome. Bukumi.
Yeah, thank you very much, Boo. I want to ask about the one of the elicitation techniques. You mentioned observation, and under observation we have formal observation, protocol analysis, and shadowing. I just want to know, like, should I say, what kind of project, can one
Yeah.
use this observation on?
Okay. You can
Yeah.
use it on every project, but it depends on what you want to achieve. So for each elicitation technique, you have to understand the magnitude of the project you are working on. For instance,
Okay.
if you are working on an enhancement project, like it's not greenfield. So the difference between greenfield project and enhancement is that greenfield is new, building from
Okay.
the scratch. Enhancement is we already have a system in place, but want to make it better. So what you're what you are doing is that you are trying to observe their current system, right?
Okay.
Because they already have a system in place. are trying to observe what do they do, how do they do their processes, how do they run their processes. So you are observing and saying, okay, what can I do to make it better? Because you are not just observing, you are observing to make it better,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
it begins to feed your mind with questions and thoughts. Okay, if you do this, okay, they spent 20 minutes on this particular process.
Okay.
Okay, I observed that they spent 20 minutes on this process. What can I do? What can I suggest? What solution can I provide to make it better? Is it possible for them to spend 5 minutes? How is this affecting their productivity? Okay, if we
Okay.
enhance this process, how is it going to enhance their productivity and all of that? So those are the things. Yeah. So it depends
Yeah.
on whatever project that you're working on. Observation works better in an enhancement project.
Okay.
A whole lot better in enhancement project, but can be used for greenfield project as well because it depends on what they are trying to build. For instance, they might have a particular um, application in place, but they are now thinking of moving to um, a completely new application that is different from the one that they are using. And then maybe you want to observe what they are currently using so that it can help you um, get a better understanding of the new application that you'll be building.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I understand.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Adekunle.
Thank you very much, Bolu. My question is just that can it be for a BA to actually get his to gather his information, considering the fact that when a project is given that is supposed to be like four weeks now, considering the scrum ceremonies, maybe from 2 to 4 weeks, and the BA is trying to get information to analyze things and to put everybody, I
Adekunle,
mean,
use the right terminology because you are supposed to be an expert. So what's the right terminology for what you want to say?
that's what I'm trying to.
No, you are saying information. I'm trying to correct information. What is information called in BA word? Can somebody help Adekunle?
Can somebody help?
What is information called in BA word?
Requirements.
Requirements. Yeah.
Requirement.
Okay,
Adekunle, we call it requirement, not
thank you very
information.
much. So when a BA is trying to get requirement from the stakeholder
Yeah.
and considering the Scrum ceremonies that is supposed to be within 4 weeks, how pressing or how hard can it be for a BA to get that?
And scrum ceremony doesn't affect your requirements gathering process.
All right.
Yeah, it doesn't. So as a business analyst, before your sprint planning happens, you have to have populated the backlog with 2 sprints worth of stories. So you need to populate the backlog with 8 weeks worth of stories.
Okay.
Yeah. So like ideally, it doesn't have to be rigid, but your team must always have PBIs in the backlog that they can work with at all times. Never should there be a time when your backlog is empty and you don't have any story. Now it is because you guys are still setting up your board, your project board, and all of that. But after now, it should never be empty, if that
Mm.
makes sense. Yeah,
All right. Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, the last hand up, Olashubumi.
Hi everyone. I joined the meeting a bit late. Sorry about that. But Since I joined, all I've been hearing is BA and POs, and I want to ask, what is the application of elicitation for ADMs, or where does a project manager come in place in all of this, or with the application of elicitation? Thank you.
So elicitation of requirement is a BA responsibility. Other delivery managers are to deliver, are in charge of ensuring that the project is delivered within the time frame that it has been given, that has been assigned to it. So yeah, that's the simple answer I can give you. However, even if you came late, the video is a recorded session, so you can watch it again if you are interested. But it's basically for business analyst, like
Right.
it's the responsibility of a business analyst. Another delivery manager ensures that the team, oh,
I'm,
this is the
I'm on.
timeline that's been
I'm in
given
a
for this
meeting. Hold
project.
on.
You must deliver it within this period of time, if that makes sense. Okay, Oladipupo.
Uh, Good evening. My question is, as a product owner, you said the product owner is also part of the stakeholders, and I also want to believe that in our previous classes we've made mention of subject matter experts. In the process where you are gathering requirements, I want to know, is there any difference between the product owner and the subject matter experts? Because I believe in other industries, maybe for example, from the agribusiness industries, we have people who are subject matter experts in this area. And how do you gather a requirement? Is it from the product owner or those subject matter experts?
Okay. So it's not only product owners that they are not your only stakeholders, right? Your product owners are not your only stakeholders. I mean, you can find yourself in an organization whereby that's why at the beginning I said you must identify your relevant stakeholders. So you gather requirement from all your relevant stakeholders. The subject matter expert could be a stakeholder that is not a product owner. For example, you are a business, and there are times that you will not have a product owner. You will deal directly with the stakeholders. So there are situations and times that you will be in an organization where um you have to speak to people that know the process for you to understand their assist. For example, you you get to an organization, there's no documentation. They don't have documentation. You don't know what the assist process is, and they ask you for enhancement. So now you want to know who are the subject matter experts for this particular project or this product or this application. Who are the people that know this application in and out, that can give me what is the day-to-day work like, or how is this application used? So you go to them and you speak to them. They might not necessarily be the product owner, because the product owner too is part of your team. So your product owner might not actually know. However, your product owner might be able to point you to the subject matter expert, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, thank you everyone for your question. Okay, Titilaya is asking, I need more clarification on the types of requirements. How do you mean? What kind of clarification do you need, Titilaya? If you can unmute yourself and speak, or if you still want to send a message before we start the next part of this. Okay. All right. Thank you everyone for your question. I'll stop this recording.